Hello and welcome to episode 141 of the Player 3 podcast. I'm your host, Luke Croft, and alongside me, the always visually stunning Larry Hunt.
Hi.
Got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about Microsoft's strong first quarter of this year, a popular Halo mod getting hit with a takedown, the Symmetra Rework, and a lot of Nintendo news. All that and more packed into this week's episode. We are the Facebook comment equivalent of podcasts.
I don't understand.
What do you think is worse, Facebook comments or YouTube comments?
YouTube comments, 100%.
Really?
Yes.
Dude, see, here's the thing. Hot take.
All right.
Facebook comments are worse than YouTube comments because YouTube comments are generally short, snappy troll comments, right?
Okay.
Just a couple words. Whereas Facebook comments, it does not matter what you click on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, there's always going to be some negative thing that has like 1.5 thousand thumbs up on it or whatever. Like I saw a video today of a young man who was playing in a t-ball game, and his coach told him to run home as fast as possible, and so he was going in slow motion like this. The kid's like 4 years old probably, but cute video, right? Funny video.
Hilarious.
But all the comments at the top were like, "This is what's wrong with the generation today. They don't listen to their coach. They just undermine, blah, 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 blah."
When has coaching anything under 6 had kids that did what they were supposed
Exactly. Exactly. My sister played t-ball when she was little, and all she did was sit in the outfield and pick grass off of her socks.
Mm-hmm.
That's all she did.
Mm-hmm.
Did you play soccer as a little kid?
No.
But I'm sure you've seen it. It's every kid runs for the ball. There's no positions. Nobody's listening to anything.
I played t-ball as a kid, and I was very similar to your sister.
Exactly.
I was just staring in the distance, chasing butterflies.
So, anyway, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm great.
We are the Player 3 podcast. We get to get. I'm so thrown off by myself today. I don't know what.
We get together every week and talk about Facebook comments.
We get together every week, talk about video games over here on twitch.tv/player3podcast. Push it out on iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher the following day. Also, youtube.com/player3podcast, wherever you're listening to us. Thank you so much for taking part in this. And if you want to participate in the chat, join us 5 o'clock on Mondays over on our Twitch channel. And we would love to have you there. Larry, let's get this week started like we get every week started with. What have you been consuming?
I got it this week.
There we go.
This is the first week. We've been doing this for 6-8 months. And this is the first week I wasn't anticipating with the releases of the week.
Releases of the week. Oh.
Now what are we doing? I don't know anymore.
What have you been consuming, my friend?
Not a lot. I have been ridiculously, absurdly busy. Today, I didn't do anything, and it was great. I haven't had time to consume much. But what I have consumed is Overwatch. We've been playing that. We talked many weeks ago. We were going to start getting good, and I think we're there. You had quite a climb in Season 9.
Yes, I did. I climbed about 650 SR.
You started at like, what, 1600?
1,700, dropped down as low as 1,500, and now I'm up in the 2150s range.
So we didn't hit plat this season, but I think we're in a prime position. Get our placements done and then start climbing up to platinum.
I'm interested to see where we place, and we can talk about this more here in a minute when we get to the releases of the week. But I really want to just burn through our placement matches as fast as we can. Mm-hmm. I don't know if we'd be able to accomplish it tonight, but if we can, I'd be all for it.
All right.
I'm working from home tomorrow.
So been playing that. That ended. My wife and we finished season 2 of Jessica Jones. Have you started that at all yet?
No, I have not.
Okay. It's good. I liked it. It doesn't end with as much resolution as the first season. So you're definitely set up for the next season. So
right.
That was interesting. But I don't know. I don't want to talk about it till you've watched it. But once you've watched it, we need to have a spoiler-filled discussion of the season.
Absolutely. I'm not sure when that will happen, but I've been in the mood for comedies a lot lately, and that's kind of where my headspace has been. So
Jessica Jones is funny. She says really mean things.
So I've got a long list of stuff I really want to watch, but I'm not in the mindset to start undertaking it as of right now. So, but as soon as I am, I think Jessica Jones will be the first thing that I sink my teeth into. Also, that's one that I know my wife's going to want to watch with me, and it's always a little harder to coordinate around that rather than just, oh, I have 30 minutes where I'm eating lunch at home or whatever. I'm just going to turn it on.
Yeah. Have you watched Defenders?
No, I've not.
What? Okay.
I'm not. Look, I'm not a huge superhero fan. Like, and I think we talked about this. I'm only going to watch something if it really catches my interest. And Defenders never caught my. Like Luke Cage doesn't seem that interesting to me. I haven't watched the second season of Daredevil.
Okay.
I watched the first 2 episodes of the second season of Daredevil and was like, this isn't nearly as compelling as the first season. So I stopped.
All right. Kristen, who plays Jessica Jones? Kristen
Ritter?
Yeah, that sounds right. Yes. She and Charlie Cox they have great banner in the Defenders. But you don't know about that. I'll make a compilation for you.
All right. Sounds great. Send it on a mixtape for me.
I will, with hearts drawn on it to just symbolize the depth of our relationship.
Exactly. Is that it?
And I think that's basically it. It's been like I said, absurdly busy week.
So for me, I've been plugging through God of War.
Boy.
Boy, seriously, every other line, come boy.
I haven't even played the game, and I've seen so many memes about boy.
So one of the things that Kratos is always asking Atreus to do is translate runes because his mother taught him how to read all this stuff.
And Kratos never learned to read.
Exactly. Well, yeah, kind of. But so he gets Atreus to translate. So my favorite meme so far has been, boy, come here. What does this say? And he was like, and Atreus is like, it says, beware of the updog. And he's like, updog, what is this beast? And Atreus is like, what do you mean? And he's like, what is updog? Oh, nothing much. Great. We will keep our eyes peeled for this updog. So anyway, I mentioned last week that I was having a real hard time kind of connecting with Kratos. The more I play through it, the more fleshed out he's becoming. I'm probably about 12, 13 hours into the game now at this point. It's a super long game, and I'm doing a lot of the side quests because I'm discovering that I've gone into some fights a little underpowered, and I'm not really into that. So, but yeah, the story is starting to kind of grasp me. There's a little more mystery going on around it, and just the and again, I'm not going to spoil anything, but the journey as a whole. I don't know. I'm not a father, and I think a lot of people who play it connect because they're a father. But it's a game about loss. It's a game about grief and how you deal with those things, and it's a game about reconciling the past when trying to be a better person for the future. And I can connect with those things, and so it is grabbing me a lot more. The combat, man. I mentioned a little bit about it last week, but now that I'm like well into the game and I'm starting to unlock a lot of abilities, I can definitively say I have never played a single game that has had as satisfying a combat as this game.
Wow. The
combos you can pull off, how powerful you feel as Kratos, and just last week I spent a lot of time talking about the weight of the combat, all of that playing together. There's not a game I can think of that I have played in recent memory or ever really that has as good a combat as God of War. So yeah, hopefully, I know I said this last week, but I didn't realize how long this game would take, but hopefully next week I can give you my thoughts on the entire game after totally completing it. So that is the goal.
All right. Real quick, you said you could connect with the trying to be a better person in the future. So like you've put effort in that before?
I can understand trying and failing and then giving up. I finished Parks and Rec this week.
Yeah.
Season 7's terrible. Don't watch it. It's awful.
I think it's worth it for the ending. You skip the ending.
I
think so.
No, not at all. I'm not a big fan of like, let's just jump ahead and see where characters ended up, yada, yada, yada. Like, I get some series doing that. Like, in video games, Uncharted did that with the last chapter of Uncharted 4. You kind of fast forward into Nathan Drake's life and you see his daughter and you see the life that he's chose to live. So like you get an indication of like where the story closes, and that really closes the book on future sequels that contain those characters, right?
Yeah.
Harry Potter does the same thing at the very end of the series when they show the characters all grown up and sending their own kids to Hogwarts. Like, closes the book on their stories. I didn't feel like it was necessary with Parks and Rec. Like, that is a show that you could probably revisit in a decade and bring the cast back together, and it would be something that people would be all about. Like, I didn't understand closing that book. And of course you can always write your way around any of that stuff, but
Yeah.
I thoroughly, because the end of season 6 was supposed to be the end of the show, right?
I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure it was. At least that's what my wife told me. And so I would have enjoyed that as being the ending of that show. And everything just felt really off in the first few episodes of season 7 too, with like the whole Ron and Leslie thing. But anyway, I don't want to go on about a show that's been over for 3 years.
Hi, Guns for Hire 4. Welcome to the stream, and no, you.
No. We're too old to dab, right?
I think so.
I think so too.
I throw my hip out.
It's true. I don't think you use your hips when you dab, but
then you aren't dabbing hard enough.
I also tried Mario cereal.
Yeah.
In the "What have you been consuming" section, we're actually going to talk about something I actually consumed. I was at Aldi of all places, and they had like a whole carton of Mario cereal. So I was like, I'm going to buy this and I'm going to try it. Not good. Not good.
You've been hyping up to me that you're going to talk about something you actually ate, and then what have you been consuming? Only to say not good.
I mean, I'll give you more. It tastes like off-brand Lucky Charms. It tastes halfway between off-brand and on-brand Lucky Charms. It's not quite as bad as like just going to Food Line and buying, whatever magical wizard they've got on the front of that box. But it's not as good as real Lucky Charms. It's kind of got like a strawberry flavor to it. Yeah.
Okay. I won't buy any.
Yeah, don't buy it. If you do, just set it on your shelf, let it turn to dust as a collector's item. I meant to bring the box down here and put it up on display anyway, but I also want to try the amiibo thing out with it, where you can scan it into Mario Odyssey and get, some extra stuff. So I'll report back on that. But yeah, that's everything I've been playing.
All right.
Let's move on, Larry, to the releases of the week.
Releases of the week.
Clap, clap. I remembered from last week, whispering clap, clap.
Oh, yeah.
Releasing this week, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, coming out on the Switch. This was originally released on the Wii U. They're bringing it over to the console that people actually bought, which is the Nintendo Switch.
Interesting.
Season 10 of Overwatch hits this week. Brigitte. Going to be included in this season. Larry, give me your 30 seconds on how you think Brigitte is going to impact gameplay.
I love and hate that she's coming in. I love it because we're a brawling team. We like to just be up in the mix, hitting people in the face, and I think she's really going to facilitate that. But I also hate having to deal with brawling teams, and she's going to facilitate other people being able to do that to me. I think you're going to see a lot more death balls. We talked earlier that you're going to see a lot of triple tank happening, so you're going to have to counter that. So listen, if you're having trouble with Brigitte, here's how you deal with her. 1, when she throws her shield up, shoot her shield. It doesn't have a lot of health. You can break that thing, and then it's not.
I can break these cuffs.
You can't break those cuffs. 2, get characters that can knock her out of position, because she can only heal people if they're near her. And Doomfist knocks her out of the way. And 3, utilize range. Get the high ground on her and just pick her off from a distance, because she can't heal if she's not in your face hitting you. So
There you go.
We're going to see more death balls, but I think we're also going to see a lot more ranged characters to counter the anticipated Brigitte.
Follow Larry on YouTube, youtube.com/goldcoach.
Yeah, that's a thing.
It would be awesome if you were offering coaching advice down in low gold.
I think this is brilliant.
This is a great idea. Please don't steal it.
Don't steal our idea.
All right. Also releasing this week, just some updates on your free games that you get with your different online services. On PS Plus, you're going to be getting Beyond Two Souls, King Oddball, and Rayman Legends. So be looking out for those. I want to play Beyond Two Souls. kind of a weird pick because Detroit Become Human is coming out. That's another Quantic Dream game. And I understand, I guess I can kind of get the logic of like, hey, we'll release a similar game from the same studio, maybe get people hyped for this game that's coming out a few weeks later. But then it's like, there's only so much narrative driven choice based games that you can play in any given amount of time in it.
Yeah, that may have been a better choice last month.
Yeah, or
before.
Yeah. Maybe the month that you were going to announce the release date or something like that. I don't know. It just seems like a strange choice.
Rayman Legends, we have that on Xbox, my wife and I. If you like couch co-op and you enjoyed Rayman, it's a fun game.
All right. It's got the Larry stamp of approval. Larry stamp of approval. We need a
soundboard.
We need a soundboard.
Ben's going to get one. He started telling us about it on episode like 5.
And then your Xbox Games with Gold releasing today. No, I'm sorry, tomorrow. Actually, Streets of Rage is available today.
What?
And then Mega Baseball 2. So
I am so hyped for this Streets of Rage game. Like I'm gonna miss you guys as you play season 10 of Overwatch without me.
Yes. He'll be on tonight, guys. We'll be
true.
streaming it. We're going to stream all of our placement matches. You'll see me rage when it's like, low silver again? I got to do this climb all over?
Oh, man. If that happens, I'll quit the game forever.
I'm trying to determine what my threshold is. If I place any lower than 1900, I think I may trade in the game that I bought digitally. And by I mean Ben. That Ben bought digitally.
Bad news, Ben. I traded your game, man.
Those are your releases of the week.
Releases of the week.
Clap, clap.
Wait, do we both whisper?
No. You say
I
it
talk
normal,
loud.
and
sorry.
then I'll come in. It's like a,
Gotcha.
it's a volume harmony. I don't think that's a thing, but
I
we're
get
gonna
what you're
invent
saying.
it. Yeah. All right, let's move on to topics. Yeah, we've got some topics for you, Larry. Let's just keep the Overwatch train rolling, my friend.
I love that idea.
Hit me with your Overwatch topic.
My Overwatch topic is Symmetra is getting another rework.
All right.
And I put this in. It's really interesting to me. I don't know if, and viewers, listeners, you can let me know if you know of any situations where this has happened. But I don't know if there's ever been such a dramatic change made in a game that was already out to a character that was already established.
To be fair, the hero shooter thing of today, and like Overwatch is kind of unique in a lot of ways. I mean, there are similar style games, but as far as just the complete diversity of characters and classes, I don't know if there's anything that's really comparable.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But it's really crazy to me. I thought a couple weeks ago I sent you an article about having this different, or maybe it was for this week.
Yeah, it was.
I changed my mind. Initially, my topic was going to be an article about how Symmetra players say that Symmetra is not the problem, other players are the problem. Because they automatically get tilted.
Classic Overwatch. Classic Overwatch community. It's like, it's either one or the other. Why can't it be both, you know?
Yeah. But their stance more or less was that Symmetra is a totally viable character and people just get unnecessarily tilted when she gets picked. But the reality is that if you know how to deal with Symmetra, you neutralize her immediately. And some of the stuff brought up in that article was legitimate, but most of it was stuff I would expect a Symmetra main to say. Like, she's totally fine on offense if you know what you're doing. 9 times out of 10, no, she is not.
You can say that about any character, and then it's like, well, how many of you know what you're doing? Yeah. And the fact that, and we're going to get into the rework stuff, but in the forum post where the developers were talking about the rework, it was like, we're making these changes so that she is a viable option on offense. Like, yes. That is a direct quote from those forum posts, and it's like, if the developers recognize she's not a viable option, you can't then turn around and say she is.
Yeah. And I think that from the get-go, Symmetra just never really had a good place in Overwatch.
Right.
She was classified as a support. Everyone in support is a healer, except Symmetra. And early on, she could give people shields, but it was only 25. Like, she didn't do much in the way of healing. It was just placing turrets and stuff. She's always been more of a defense hero than anything else. Mm-hmm. So she's about to... They did a rework before, but still left her in support, and she was kind of halfway to being a decent defense. And early on, before people knew how to handle her new ult and everything, she was actually... You know, we picked her a lot just because if you got that shield up early, people didn't deal with it and you'd roll them.
Yeah.
But once people figured it out, it was done. So they're moving her straight up into the defense category, and it sounds like she's going to become more of a DPS, which is what she's always needed to be. So literally everything about this character is changing.
Walk us through it.
So, her gun is the single most frustrating gun
Oh my
in
gosh.
Overwatch. You don't have to be able to aim. Like, that gun can shoot, like, the full degree of her sight. Like, it's ridiculous. It locks on. Well, now the gun's going to do even more damage, but it takes longer to get up to full damage, and it no longer locks on. So
It's
you
like
have to
Zarya's gun.
Like Zarya or Mei, but yeah, more like Zarya. So you actually have to be able to aim to use the gun well. I love that.
Aiming in a first-person shooter, astonishing.
So immediately, 50% of the Symmetra mains will have to find a new character. That was unfair. I'm sorry, Symmetra mains.
Unfair and true.
And true.
Somehow.
So that's changing. Her ultimate ability is no longer teleport. Teleport is instead an E ability. And it throws up a teleporter that only has a 25-meter range. And the teleporter has 300 health. And if you destroy either the entrance or the exit, the teleporter's gone.
So, if I understand right, do you have to place both the entrance and exit, or do you place the exit and the entrance goes where you're standing?
It wasn't really clear to me. And the way I understood it, and I wasn't clear, was that where you stand, you're placing the entrance and you are projecting the exit. But that doesn't sound super useful to me.
Right.
So I don't know. We'll have to see how it actually works. But it's only going to save you a little bit of walking, and it's more about getting good positioning.
What if Symmetra became the entrance, and you had to follow her around, and you could walk into her and end up
wherever?
I love the idea of like a portal gun being in the game, though.
Cool.
I think it would be more interesting if it could impact both your team and the enemy team. Like you could use it more as a like, hey, we're gonna place this entrance over here next to spawn or whatever, and if they walk through it, it leads them off a cliff.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. And they're playing around with what you can actually send through the portal. So you may be able to send Diva nukes, which could be awesome. You may be able to send Torb turrets or Junkrat grenades. But everything we're saying is up in the air. None of this is locked in.
Yeah, this isn't any official announcement. This is all based off a forum post.
Yeah. So, what have we covered? We covered her gun. We didn't cover her gun in detail. Her alternate fire shoots this ball of energy that passes through shields. It just passes through everything until it hits a solid object like a house or the ground, and does damage to everybody it passes through. Well, now it's not going to pass through everything, but when it hits something, it's going to explode and do splash damage. So,
I did not see that. I don't know why I overlooked that.
It was a lot of reading.
Yeah, it was a lot of stuff. I mean, it was basically like, you remember this character? Gonna look exactly the same. Play, everything's different.
Yes. So that's neat. And now her turrets that she places, she doesn't have to actually like walk up and put them on the wall. She can shoot them to the location. And I'm really excited about that.
So explain this to me a little bit. Do they only do damage once they place, correct? They don't do damage as they're flying through the air.
Correct.
Okay.
And they take the same amount of time to set up once they hit the wall.
Okay.
So they're going to basically function like you shoot them like you would shoot a fair rocket, but instead of exploding, they turn into a turret on a wall.
Okay.
And they're going to double in health and increase in the damage they do, but you only get 3. Yeah. So that's going to be very useful.
So what did you think about the abandoned idea of them being able to heal?
I thought about it. I went back and forth on it. Just, I don't know. It's an interesting concept, but again, I think the issue with Symmetra from the beginning has been that she never fit anywhere, and you either have to make her a healer or a DPS, and so they would have had to go a totally different direction than they're going if they went with the healing turrets. I think.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I like the idea because I thought it makes communication a lot more interesting, and it makes point defense especially a lot more interesting. But again, it doesn't make her a viable offensive character to do this. But I mean, think about, you're on Hanamura or whatever. You set up a car wash over the main entrance of your thing, and you just tell your team like, hey, if you need healing, just come back through the main entrance and you'll get it. But again, I know they want to see her pick rate increase on both offense and defense, and even on like control maps and stuff, and that wouldn't be the case.
Yeah. I forgot this detail with her gun. When she's using her beam on a barrier, so Ryan's shield, Orissa's shield, something like that, it actually gains ammo.
Oh, okay. I did not see that either.
So she can lay into a barrier infinitely, no issue, and can lay into a barrier to gain ammo instead of reloading.
Okay.
So when you're playing against a sim, you'll have to be careful how you use your barriers against her even.
All right.
So that's a thing. And the last thing they're doing is her ult is apparently an infinite barrier. So it's a one-way wall. It'll be like any other barrier, as far as I gather. You can shoot through it. You can't shoot through it. That's useless. You can walk through it, but you can't shoot through it. The barrier has 5,000 health, and she can place it any direction she wants, but it can literally span the entire map.
I just want to see it.
Yeah, me
Like
too.
that's my big thing. I don't even care about like how it impacts the game. I just want to see a giant map size wall go up and infinitely into space and infinitely both east and west.
But that has a lot of very interesting utility. You could use it like you use any other barrier to shield off a specific point, but you could also do an interesting thing where you split the payload route right up the middle and just pass back and forth between it.
Yeah, use it like a Winston bubble where you're shield dancing. Yeah. So there's no time limit on the shield, right? It's just it has to be broken through damage.
They didn't specify. So
okay.
Yeah, and 5,000 damage is a lot of damage to do. But it also means you got to be smart about how you use it. Because if you do cut it from spawn to spawn, then they can just sit in their spawn and blow your wall up.
Exactly.
So those are all the changes. I'm excited about them. I think it's going to make her a viable DPS. I like her as a character. And I'm actually excited to get my hands on some of this and play it.
Well, you used to play Symmetra when the...
Sorry.
Oh my gosh, party foul from Larry W. Hunt.
I just received great news, but I'll celebrate later.
Interesting.
We're lacking in volunteers for my camp week, and someone just texted me to volunteer.
Oh, wow. Exciting stuff.
Never happens.
Breaking news here on the Player 3 podcast. But yeah, you used to play Symmetra when her shield generator was a viable option.
Yeah.
So the shield generator thing completely out. It's not an ability. It's not in her, ult cache. No shield generator at all.
And with pulling her out of support, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So she's straight DPS. And what I'm most excited about is just looking at these abilities together, I think she's going to be great for a great bunker buster. In the lower tiers where we're stuck, you see a lot of bunker. Up higher, it's dive all the way, but where we're at, everyone bunkers.
Yeah.
And there's a limit to what you can do about that. But when the barrier in the bunker is going to feed her gun, and she's able to do splash damage with these explosive energy balls, and she's able to shoot her turret things in behind the barrier, I think we're going to see some really interesting plays coming from Symmetra. I think she'll be really viable for that, and I'm excited for that. Because basically right now you break a barrier by you send Genji in to kill Bastion, you send Sombra in to hack somebody, or you have a good Junkrat. But it's a crapshoot over whether your random teammate who picks Junkrat is going to be good or not.
Spoiler alert, he's not.
Right.
He doesn't realize those grenades can bounce off of stuff, and he doesn't play the angles. He just runs straight in front of the Bastion.
If I had a nickel for every Junkrat that just runs straight at the enemy, I would have bought all the loot boxes.
No, I think it's good, and I think it's awesome that, obviously, so Symmetra has never been picked in the Overwatch League. And I think
that was interesting in the Symmetra, it's everybody else's fault, not Symmetra mains. They made that point. Like, never been picked, not even as a troll pick against Shanghai.
Exactly. So that tells you something. And it's a bad look. You have an officially branded league for your game, and there's a character that everybody stays away from. Friday night, the Houston Outlaws played a Torbjorn on Numbani. So in Torbjorn, and you know what else is great? Torbjorn is going to be more of a healer than Symmetra is, because he creates those armor packs. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, and I think it's even more interesting because I do think it is something that's going to be a meta changer, and it'll be 2 seasons in a row basically where you're having to completely rework your team comps, because I think Symmetra is going to be a big pick, and I think it is going to make. You develop a Brigitte who's got her shield, and then you rework a character who feeds off of shields, and so it's going to be interesting to see how it all works out, and if she can shake off the stigma of just. At this point, I'm more frustrated by Symmetra picks than anything else, other than maybe Hanzo.
Me too. where we're at, if you come up against a team that's totally disorganized, Symmetra can still be a viable pick. But the problem with Symmetra mains is a lot of them will not recognize when they're totally countered. The enemy team has a Pharah and a Winston. You're done. Switch to another character.
Yeah.
What I'm really excited about for when she gets put in the game in this change is, this information doesn't pass through the game, and so many people don't read the patch notes.
Yeah.
I cannot wait for teams to just be getting rolled like, what in the world is Symmetra doing to me right now? Because normally they don't read the patch notes and it's something minor they have to figure out, like, oh, Sombra hacked me, I can't wall ride anymore as Lucio. But all of a sudden these people are going to log on with Symmetra shooting turrets and explosions happening. What is going on?
She's going to be more frenetic, and I think that's the thing missing with Symmetra. She's a boring character to play, and now you've got all these options of stuff you can shoot, and your teleporter ability is going to have all these different options for you to do. Like, it's going to be fun she'll be fun to play again, I think. So, all right, Larry, let's move on to my topic. Yeah, I've got a topic for you.
Do you though?
I want to talk about Microsoft, and I want to talk about their first quarter, and I want to talk about some interesting things that came out of their first quarter. This is from GameSpot. I'll tell you who wrote it. Oh, you know who it's from, Larry. Eddie over at GameSpot. It reads, Microsoft today reported earnings for the quarter ending on March 31st. In the company's Xbox division, posted strong numbers. The Xbox business saw revenue rise 18% to $2.25 billion, led by gains in software and services, not hardware. Software and services posted gains of 24%, and importantly, Microsoft said this was driven, quote, mainly from third-party title strength, end quote. It's notable because it shows Microsoft can have a successful quarter even when it relies on games made by other companies. Microsoft Sea of Thieves was released on March 20th, so it is counted within the quarter, but only for a few days. So it's interesting that it's not mentioned in Microsoft's report today, as Sea of Thieves quickly became Microsoft's fastest-selling new IP on Xbox One, which we talked about that when it happened. That's not saying a lot. The company's fortunes may improve further still when some of its own big games out later this year come out this year, later this year. I missed a word. Like State of Decay 2 and Crackdown 3, as well as whatever might get announced at E3 in June. Additionally, Microsoft announced that the number of active Xbox Live users rose 13% to 59 million for the quarter. Microsoft said Xbox Live posted continued growth across Xbox One, Windows 10, and mobile when it comes to Xbox Live. So Larry has bailed on me. No, I just thought these were interesting numbers. We talk a lot about the direction of Xbox, and I think through the noise of the criticism about Xbox not having first-party exclusive titles, we failed to recognize that they've slowly started to build up themselves as with this identity of being a service-oriented platform. And in a lot of ways, Microsoft has always kind of built themselves on the idea of services. I mean, go back to the original Xbox. Like, one of the main tenets of that launch was Xbox Live. And through Xbox Live, they've built all of these additional services. Xbox was kind of the Xbox 360 put a huge emphasis on downloadable content, an entire section of their dashboard dedicated to it. And then with the Xbox One, I mean, just think about all of the services they've launched. And I mean, look, EA Access isn't owned by them, but they championed it and believed in it enough to bring it into their fold when Sony looked at it and said, hey, there's no value here. You have backwards compatibility. You have Xbox Play Anywhere. You have the Xbox Preview program. Now you have Xbox Games Pass. You have all of these services that are it's not just a volume, but there is a quality to them as well. And I think there is something for everybody within it. And last week you were talking about being excited for is it Breakdown being backwards compatible. Xbox Game Pass, I think, provides a real good value to people who may not necessarily have the budget to play all the latest titles, but they want a big library of games to pull from. So pay $10 a month, get access to hundreds of games. So it's cool to see that. Look, there was a time in the PlayStation 4 life cycle where the company itself admitted we don't have a lot of first party stuff out right now. And they were relying a lot on third party deals that they'd brokered, that, marketing exclusivity, like with Call of Duty, stuff like that. And now that stuff's coming to fruition. I do think we're going to see some more stuff from Microsoft at E3 that's going to give us more on a software side to get excited about from Microsoft Studios. Ori and the Will of the Wisps. I think we're going to see a new Halo. And then I think they're probably going to have some surprises up their sleeve as well.
Yeah.
So as you were reading through this, what did you think?
The thing that stood out to me was the jump in active Xbox Live users. And I feel like you can almost write that up entirely to Sea of Thieves. Mm-hmm. That would be my guess. So, I mean, I don't have anything to say that you haven't already covered. That's just the biggest observation I had was it was really good that they did get a good, solid first-party game going, and they're seeing the benefit of that.
And I think it's going to spike again with State of Decay 2. The first game was well-received, and the people who played it loved it, but the main thing was we want online co-op for this game. It is a world of community building, and we want to be able to do that with friends. And it's the one big addition to the sequel. And I think, and it's going to be available again on Xbox Games Pass. And I think people are going to latch on to this, even though it sometimes feels like we're a little beyond the whole zombie game genre. I think there's enough unique pool to State of Decay 2 that it's gonna draw a significant audience.
I'm very excited about it. I've been a zombie fan for my whole life. I hate zombies, but I love killing zombies.
He loves being a zombie.
But there's never been a zombie game that was online that you were like super into. And so I'm excited to play this game with you. Mm-hmm. The only game we've ever played was we played 7 Days to Die one night. Yeah. That was a lot of fun, but we just have other stuff we like to play.
And it was janky.
Yeah, it was so janky. Awful janky.
But let me throw this little sentence out to you and see how you agree. Or if you agree. Do you think E3 is going to be more important for Microsoft or for EA? Let me just ask it in the form of a question. Because I think it's definitively between those two, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it's going to be more important for Microsoft. I think EA is just so, even though they've had a rough year as far as public perception, they're just so huge that it would take several years of bad public perception to actually cause them long-term problems. Whereas Microsoft, they started this console generation off just in the hole because some of their ideas weren't received well, even though we wound up getting nudged in those directions anyway, mm-hmm. and learning along the way that it actually wasn't so bad. But from the get-go, like their public perception's been in trouble, and I think they're on the rebound in a lot of ways. And like you've said, they have so many great services to offer, and I think this E3, they're really going to capitalize on that, and it is going to make a big difference for them as a company.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. I think it's funny. Like I've been saying, if you dig down, like there's a lot of really great things going on with the Xbox platform, and but I understand people are like, well, we just want games. We want to hear about games. Like it doesn't matter if you have a service, give us games on that service that are worth playing. And I think those things are going to come down the line. And I think this E3 is so important for Microsoft because I do think this is their opportunity to step forward and say, these are the games that are coming up that are going to be attached to, and I think almost every game that you see at E3 is going to be somehow attached to one of these programs that they've got going, and really tie it back to the services that are going to be the thing that they'll find long-term success in. EA is going to be EA, and they're going to, I don't know if we're going to get surprised by anything at their presentation. If they do, fine, but they're really just let's not enter into any more PR battles during this E3.
Yeah,
that's what's important for them. I don't think Microsoft is fighting that battle. They're fighting a battle of substance and quality, which is completely different, but I think very important. So. All right, Larry, let's move on to the news.
Podcast guys.
First item on the list. This is from Eurogamer.net. .net. And it's loading. But it's about loot boxes, Larry. I don't think we've ever talked about loot boxes.
Never heard of them.
And about how they are now illegal. All right. It is from Wesley Yinpool over on Eurogamer. It says, now Belgium declares loot boxes gambling and therefore illegal. Reads, hot on the heels of the Netherlands declaring loot boxes are gambling and therefore illegal, Belgium has had its say. The Belgian Gaming Commission looked at Star Wars Battlefront 2, FIFA 18, Overwatch, and Counter-Strike Global Offensive and found only Star Wars not in violation of the country's gambling legislation. And that's only because EA stripped out the game's loot boxes after its launch debacle. It determined FIFA 18, Overwatch, and Counter-Strike Global Offensive's loot boxes are a game of chance and so are subject to Belgian gaming law. Battlefront 2, at the time the investigation was conducted, did not have loot boxes, so escaped unscathed. A statement from Minister of Justice Cohen Geens said FIFA 18, Overwatch, and CSGO were therefore illegal and demanded their loot boxes removed. If they're not, the publishers, quote, risk a prison sentence of up to 5 years and a fine of up to 800,000 euros, end quote. When minors are involved, those punishments can be doubled, Geens added. Belgium expressed a particular concern about the impact of loot boxes. The impact loot boxes have on young people, quote, it is often children who come into contact with such systems, and we cannot allow that, end quote, Geens warned. In fact, Geens requested the Belgian Gaming Commission investigate video game loot boxes after the Star Wars blow-up. Quote, given the importance of the protection of minors and vulnerable players, this was very worrying, end quote, he said. All right, Larry, take it away.
This makes sense to me. And we've talked about this before. The loot box system is essentially gaming. Gambling. Thank you. You are exchanging money for the opportunity to maybe win the thing that you want. You're going to get something regardless, but most of it's stuff you aren't after.
Mm-hmm.
And so the statement there that we don't think this is gambling, like I don't know. If you pick up a dictionary, I think you're hard pressed to make that statement.
Yeah.
So this makes sense to me, but we've also covered that these companies have to make money somehow, and the loot box system has been good when it hasn't been abused. And the reality is, this probably wouldn't have pushed its way to legislation as fast as it did if EA hadn't just leapt as far over the line as they could in abusing this system.
Right. And given the fact that the people that are making these decisions don't necessarily understand like the nuance and the minutia of how loot boxes differentiate from one another, Star Wars Battlefront 2's had a deep impact on gameplay. Like if you wanted to be better at the game, you could essentially pay your way to the top with it. Whereas a game like Overwatch, all of the loot boxes are filled with cosmetic items. And so I think something that is going to be an unintended victim of this are the games that do microtransactions in a, I don't want to say good way, because I still don't necessarily, it would be better if Overwatch just let you outright buy the thing that you wanted.
Yeah.
But the ones that don't necessarily abuse their customer base. Now, look, the fines and the punishment and all that sort of stuff, that's neither here nor there. There's not going to be any prison sentences handed out, and 800,000 euros, that's what, like a million, like 1 point whatever $million. Who knows? It's all fake money anyway, so who cares? You can just print it off. But no, I mean, that EA blows their nose with that, right? Like, yeah. They've got that in couch cushions. Like, so I'm not, that's not the point. The point is the precedent that's being set, and hopefully the conversation that expands even further into markets that are going to have an even deeper impact on these companies' wallets, be it America, broader Europe, into Asia, and those places. I mean, I feel like we're just reaching the beginning stages of the conversation here. Like, this is just the tip of the iceberg. And what do you even do with those games? Like,
yeah,
especially like FIFA and Madden, the loot box, its Ultimate Team, which is an entire game mode that is built on card packs. That is the game mode. So do you ship without that? Do you cut it out? Or are you still going to charge people the full price, even though 1/3 of the game that you've developed is completely unplayable legally to them? Like, there's some interesting things that are going to have to happen. And I think it's mostly just going to be like, hey, we're not going to release FIFA or Madden or whatever in the Netherlands and Belgium. Not that Madden really matters, but FIFA's a huge deal in Europe. And
yeah, I think that's what we're going to see at first. But I also think that this is this is going to be the first country that goes this route,
Mm-hmm.
because there are others talking about it. There are senators in the United States who are trying to have this conversation. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm interested to see how it develops, and I don't think it's fair to games like Overwatch or FIFA necessarily, but
Well, FIFA, yeah, you can pay your way to the top in FIFA.
okay,
Yeah,
I didn't know that. All right, well, games like Overwatch where it's not affecting gameplay, it's not fair. But I heard an interesting thing. There's a guy named Steven Mansfield. He has a podcast, Steven Mansfield Podcast. I was listening to his stuff about the gun debate several weeks back, and he is a gun owner and was talking to the gun community, and he was talking about how in any community there is some degree to which you have to police yourselves, and if you don't, someone's going to step in and do it for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what has happened here with.
Well, and the gaming community did that back in the 90s when it was the government looking into it and saying, hey, we're going to start regulating your business if you don't do it. The gaming industry stepped up and said, no, we're going to establish the ESRB. We're going to police ourselves. We're going to create a rating system. And now you have games that they completely stay away from like the adult only rating because they know that's a death sentence for your game. And so they have limited themselves on the kinds of content that they can create and produce. And so, I mean, the gaming community, the gaming industry themselves should know that that's how this goes.
Yeah.
And EA just got blinded by the dollar signs of it and tried to sneak something through in a game that was going to sell to tens of millions of people.
Yeah.
It makes absolutely no sense. It was a move that was filled with so much audacity, and just the gall the arrogance of EA to think we can do this and get away with it. And it's like, it takes a consumer groundswell for you to realize that the thing that you're doing is anti-consumer.
Yeah.
And look, I agree that in a lot of ways, the whole loot box idea is anti-consumer regardless of how it's done. There are ways to be less anti-consumer with it, like Overwatch does, but it's going to force the industry to become more creative with the way that they try to make up that money.
Yeah.
But the cat's out of the bag now.
And the article focused a little bit there on minors, and I think that is important to consider, like to take these young impressionable people and begin to instill in them the seeds of gambling addiction.
Yeah.
Like that's really what you run the risk of doing when you have these systems in place.
Mm-hmm.
And that could manifest in some unpleasant ways as they get older. So I totally get it. It's going to suck for a few people, but we got to do something.
Do you think we get this far in America?
Not for a long time. I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we're great at handling anything quickly in America.
Do you think the government needs to?
I don't know. I think so to a degree. I do think the thing of teaching kids to gamble their real life money on things actually is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Like to take a kid and instill that desire in them before they fully grasp the value of money is kind of a big deal to me.
I see eye to eye with you on that. Outside of that though, it's like,
yeah,
to a point the market corrects itself. Like that's the nature of a free market, and that's what happened with Star Wars Battlefront 2. I mean, go look at the sales numbers for that game. They're far lower than what EA was anticipating. And so there's only so much you can get away with regardless. But I do think you do have to step in because it is going to have a psychological effect on some unintended victims or maybe intended victims.
Yeah. And we talked before, there's really no way to regulate between adults and children. Like there's no way to realistically separate the two out.
Yeah. There's a point where you can't expect any kind of self-policing, and maybe you can do it as an industry, but when it comes to individuals, you can't expect individuals to self-police when it comes to that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You can't expect a 13-year-old to be like, oh, okay, you have to be 18 in order to do that. I guess I won't.
And even in Overwatch's loot boxes, just talking about how the market corrects itself. Early on in the game, I would buy a few loot boxes during these events just because they were things I wanted and there was a reasonable likelihood that I could obtain them. But they've made it so impossible now that I backed off from it.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, there are still people hooked in enough that they're
Yeah.
they're shelling out the money anyway, or they wouldn't still be doing it the way they are.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, next item on the list, Larry. A little Halo story for you.
Ooh.
It's from Ethan Gack over at Kotaku. Halo Online fan project goes on hold after Microsoft intervenes. Strap in. That's a bit of a long story. A team of modders working to make the unreleased Halo Online playable have halted work after Microsoft contacted them in an effort to protect its intellectual property. Developed for the Russian market and based in the Halo 3 engine, Halo Online would have been only the third game in the series to be playable only online on PC. However, Microsoft ceased development in 2016. After this, modders began working on El Dorado, a launcher for the incomplete game that added new features and made the game playable outside of Russia. Last week, the team behind El Dorado mod announced its 0.6 release was imminent with a new trailer. It got lots of people excited again at the prospect of a polished yet old-school Halo multiplayer experience finally being available again for people on PC. That trailer has since been taken down, followed by a post last night on the official Halo blog of developer 343 Industries explaining why continued development on the project was infringing on Microsoft's intellectual property rights. Quote, "While we are humbled and inspired to see the amount of passion poured into this project, the fact remains that it's built upon Microsoft-owned assets that were never lawfully released or authorized for this purpose. As this project reverberated across the community, our team took a step back to assess the materials and explore possible avenues, while Microsoft, like any company, has a responsibility to protect its IP, code, and trademarks. It's not optional, in other words," end quote. The studio sought to distinguish Halo Online in the accompanying El Dorado mod that requires Microsoft-owned assets and code, some of which remains active in current Halo games, to work from things like the Halo Custom Edition editing tools and the Halo-inspired but completely fan-made Installation 01 game. Halo Online was never made open source or left as abandonware, wrote 343. Microsoft issued DMCA takedown notices back when illicit copies of Halo Online first began circulating during and after its development. With interest rising again, the studio reached out to El Dorado mod team to notify them the project was not considered kosher and the modders needed to, quote, hit pause, end quote. It's not clear what hitting pause means, or if they're trying to work something out, so there's really no indication about what the future is. So Larry, to sum it up, Halo Online was being developed. It was going to be available in other countries. They abandoned the project. Some modders picked it up, began developing on it, and then were releasing that to the public. It started to gain interest. 343 steps in. Now, they mentioned being obligated to protect their IP. If I understand correctly, if they were to just let this slide, it could be possible that they lose their right to that IP. And so they're legally obligated to step in and protect it for themselves. It's not just that they're obligated because it's theirs and they wanted to. They are compelled by law to step in and protect their IP
Gotcha.
without having some sort of definitive agreement in place of them being able to use it but not own it.
Yeah.
So I feel like reading through this article and reading through all the other coverage, Microsoft and 343 did a really good job of communicating exactly why this was happening and also they issued some talk about how, look, they know that there is a desire for Halo to be playable on PC and that they want to deliver to those people that are wanting that. As a longtime Halo fan, Larry, when you were reading this, what were your thoughts?
So obviously, before I say anything I'm about to say, Microsoft 343 totally within their rights here, and they've done nothing wrong. The reality is you can't just scoop up whatever intellectual property, no matter how much you love it, and begin to use it however you want to. That's just not how the world works. That being said, I think you're right. They did a good job of communicating why they're doing it so people could understand that. But I don't know that they've done a good job of understanding the people that want it on the PC. So just a quick rundown of the history of this. Originally, Halo was being developed as a project for the Mac. Did you know that?
No.
Okay. So it was an Apple exclusive.
Oh.
But Microsoft backed up a dump truck full of money and wanted it as an exclusive.
Microsoft backing up a...
Yeah.
Who'd have thought? Never heard of that. I've never heard of Titanfall. I've never heard of Tomb Raider.
So they snagged it from Apple. Well, from I don't know what kind of deal was in place. This is all very long ago and kind of hazy in my mind. But if I understand right, PC players interpreted that as they were going to be able to play Halo on computer. But as we know, looking back, it was actually so that the Xbox console could have the flagship game that it needed.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant move on Microsoft's part.
I believe it worked.
I do. I do. Halo was synonymous with the Xbox. But after a while, PC players did get Halo 1 on PC, but it was a long time after Halo 1 released. They got a couple of extra maps that console players didn't get, a couple of extra weapons, but it was very late and it wasn't very well supported from what I've read. And then PC didn't see another Halo game until Halo 5, I believe. And even that was like a lesser version of Halo 5. Mm-hmm. I don't know to what degree, but it wasn't satisfying. And it looked like it was Halo 4 or Halo 5. I may be wrong. Fact check. Feel free to fact check me, viewers. But whichever game it wasn't quite up to snuff with the game that was released on console. It wasn't supported well. And the lack of engagement, 343, Bungie, Microsoft, whoever was involved, they seemed to have interpreted it as there wasn't really an interest in having a game. When the reality is there was great interest in having a game. It was just interest in having a good game.
Right.
And so this project happened because you had a fan base who have wanted this game for a long time. And so they took matters into their own hands.
Right.
And that was illegal. Sure. But there's a market there that you could be capitalizing on and you're not.
Well, and you got to think that they are. I mean, the Xbox Play Anywhere program, Halo 6 is coming.
Yeah.
Halo Wars 2 was playable on both
That's
PC and Xbox One. So I would think that there's going to be a more robust offering.
And I wonder if that has factored into the timing of this. Mm-hmm. As we're approaching E3, we know we're seeing something about Halo 6. And the last thing you want is a big Halo project releasing on PC that's pulling a bunch of users.
Yeah.
I wonder if this has affected the player base on the console even, because a lot of console players also have a PC. And what this Halo Online is essentially a release of Halo 3. I don't know if you went and watched any gameplay. So,
well, it's built completely on Halo 3 assets and in that engine. So
you don't need a super up-to-date PC to play this game, really.
Right.
And from what I've read, it's a really stable release. There aren't a lot of big problems with it. So in a way, it can give you that experience that Master Chief Collection failed to deliver to you.
Yeah.
And I wonder a lot of things about the timing of this, but the two things on my mind are, is this cutting into the current Halo player base? And is this a preemptive move to make sure that there's a solid Halo player base for Halo 6?
Right.
Because a lot of people weren't super satisfied with Halo 5.
And at the end of the day, it's just about protecting what's yours, and not wanting somebody to come in and not just profit, but I mean, if somebody within the people that were modding this were to hit a PR snag, or the game was to just completely crumble in terms of its quality, like, you don't want your name and your assets attached to something that you don't have direct control over. I mean, it would be like somebody getting frustrated at the way that the last release of Star Wars, at The Last Jedi, and saying, well, we're just going to completely rewrite the script and make it all on our own, and we're going to use all the same names and all the same lore and everything. Like, you can't do it. I mean, look, it sounds like a great idea. There's probably going to be people that were interested in it, but you just can't do it. That's why laws exist, to protect intellectual property.
And I watched several videos of like people streaming gameplay of it and talking about it and talking about the situation. And there's a lot of optimism that hit pause means that 343 is about to partner with these Russian modders. I just don't believe that is in the cards.
I was going to bring up that could be in the cards. Okay. I mean, I think it could be. I think they're handling this with a lot of care, and they're handling it in such a way that, because look, they could be well within their rights to come in and be like, you guys are dumb. We're squashing this. Don't ever think about putting it up again. Remove every trace of it from online. They're legally allowed to do that, but people can still download the game. They're trying to remove the source code from different areas. Like, they've asked them just to hit pause. I think they are handling this in such a way that they want to talk to them and say, look, even if it's not hey, we want to bring you on and have you help us build out whatever Halo is going to look like on PC. But, hey, you've had your ear to the ground on what people want here. Like, maybe more as a consulting role. Like, hey, help us know what can make our next Halo that's going to be available on PC
that's true.
better.
That's true.
So
you have convinced me.
yeah,
Not just because of that, but because of another reason. One thing that released with this Halo Online 0.6 or whatever is a forge that is far more robust than the forge that's included with Halo games currently.
mm-hmm.
So maybe even just that tool. Hey, how'd you guys implement that? That's
Yeah,
because the forge is not very intuitive.
yeah.
Or robust.
Oh man, the worst part about Halo 4 was when it was like, hey, half the map pool now is just forge maps, and they look like crap.
Yes.
All right, let's move on, Larry.
Okay. We're running into a long show today.
Yeah, we are. Nintendo Switch sales have reached new heights, and they are getting a new president. This is from our boy Eddie over at GameSpot.
Eddie
Says Nintendo today reported earnings for the latest fiscal year, and there were a few big pieces of news to share. First off, the Nintendo Switch has now sold 17.79 million units worldwide as of March 31st, with some 68.97 million software units shipped for the same period. Nintendo added that it predicts it will sell 20 million more Switch units this fiscal year and 100 million games for the same period. That's a lot. That's the article. That's not my commentary. That's a lot, and it speaks to Nintendo's strong ambition for the year, which makes sense given a new Smash Brothers game is on the way. Additionally, Nintendo announced the president, Tatsumi Kimishima, who took over for Satoru Iwata after his passing, will retire on June 28th. Replacing him is Shuntaro Furukawa. Furukawa. Who previously held high-level titles across marketing and corporate planning, among other things. Just 46 years old, he joined Nintendo in 1994. Current Nintendo of Europe president Satoru Shibata has also stepped down from his role to take a senior position at Nintendo's headquarters in Japan. No replacement has been announced. So, let's start with the numbers. The Switch is selling like gangbusters, man. And eating crow everybody who thought that this wasn't going to be a big thing.
Welcome back, Nintendo.
Yeah, this is. I love where we are at in gaming, man. Like everybody's selling. Well, all the numbers are great. There's so much money in console gaming right now,
and part of it is they're not all trying to do the same thing better than each other.
Exactly. You have these great first party, this first party lineup from Sony that's completely different than the kind of first party lineup you're getting from Nintendo. You have Xbox really focusing on powerful hardware and deep, robust services. Like it is a fun time to be a gamer. And there's the reason we can do this show is because there's always something to talk about that's going on. Like, so
yeah, we usually have to decide what to not talk about.
Exactly. A lot of times we're like, all right, we're skipping this. So, and then as far as the Kimishima stuff, that was always like an interim thing, I think. And so moving on to someone who's younger, who can take the baton and run with it for hopefully years to come and take this vision for Nintendo that's been set out by the Switch and keep it going. I'm excited to see it. I think Nintendo is as strong now as it's probably ever been. Even with the Wii, like the Wii was selling like crazy, but everyone kind of knew like it was built on a bubble that was going to pop.
Yeah.
Somebody was going to come along and either do it better or this was just going to be a phase that passed. But now the Nintendo Switch feels like something like this is what people want. Mm-hmm. And we're about to get a new Smash. There's Pokemon that's coming on the way. Like the strongest days for the Switch are still ahead of it.
Yeah.
And that's crazy to think given the fact that Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild were Game of the Year contenders last year.
Yeah. And just the difference a year makes. Because early 2017, before the Switch was out, like my whole thing was this is Nintendo's last stand. They either do something different or they either succeed this time or they're done in the console department. Mm-hmm. And they did something all right.
They did succeed. All right. This is actually going to be our last story because we are running a little long. This is again from Eddie at GameSpot. Nintendo Switch paid online service details coming soon. Here's when. Article reads, as it's been since launch, you don't have to pay a penny to play Nintendo Switch games online, but that's going to change in September when Nintendo rolls out a paid membership plan akin to PlayStation Plus or Xbox Live Gold. We know how much it will cost, and it's considerably less than PS Plus or Gold. I think it's $20 for a year.
Okay.
But other details about the service are unknown. That's set to change soon. Nintendo announced today that it will reveal more details about the Switch's online paid membership in, quote, early May, end quote. This information will be shared through Nintendo's website, but that's all Nintendo had to say on the matter. Nintendo did say, however, that the online service, quote, will provide consumers with a richness of online features that allow them to continuously enjoy Nintendo Switch, end quote. Let me rephrase that paragraph. I'll read it how I would have read it. Nintendo did say, however, absolutely nothing else about online services in this completely boilerplate quote. All right, Larry. Look, I don't really like talking about announcements of announcements.
Yeah.
But it is interesting how they're choosing to deliver this news, at least how they're talking about delivering this news. It's not going to be a direct. It's not going to be some video presentation. They're just going to update their website.
Yeah.
Does that concern you? Do you think that's just, hey, we're getting close to E3?
It doesn't really concern me. I don't know that there will be enough of a difference between what they currently are doing and what they're going to be doing that would warrant like some big presentation. That being said, like the service needs to. Watching you play Mario Kart, it did not seem very intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm wrong, but it needs to get a little more user friendly. And the other thing, like, I cannot imagine shelling out any money for an online service where I've got to use my cell phone for voice chat.
Yeah,
that's got to change.
I mean, to me, the voice chat thing, 6 1, half dozen the other. I mean, you can download Discord, you can do whatever. These are the two things I want to see, and the two things I think we can reasonably expect from a $20 a year price point. Number one, I want to save stuff in the cloud. Mm-hmm. I don't want all of my stuff saved on my console, running the risk of losing all my progress in whatever game I'm playing. I want it attached to my ID.
And that happened to you, didn't it?
No, it did not.
Okay.
It happened to somebody that worked at IGN.
Yeah.
And, we talked about it a little bit on the podcast. That's the first thing. And the second thing I want to see is just let me look up somebody by their gamer tag. I don't want to have to type in this freaking Rosetta Stone of letters to find them. Like, I don't want to use friend code. Let me just search for somebody with their email or with their gamer tag name and have that be it. That's really all I want. So I'm not super concerned that they're like, hey, we're just updating the website. And look, I think this shows that Nintendo is completely aware of the way that Nintendo fans lose their freaking mind at the word direct and just run away with all sorts of expectations. If they were like, hey, we're doing a direct about Nintendo Online, it's like, oh my gosh, every game on the storefront is going to be completely free if you're a member. I'm hearing rumors that they're bringing every single game from their backwards compatibility log over to everything's just going to get out of hand. So just a quiet little website update to say, here's 5 features that are going to come with this that make it worth your $20 a year. And I'm completely fine with that. Then bring it home at E3 showing me all the awesome games I can play on your service. You know? So, all right, Larry. Let's move on to everybody's favorite segment, the random question of the week for the month for this week. Larry, it is my random question of the week, and I'm going to lay this on you. You had not Star Wars. You had Infinity War.
Yes, I did.
Spoiled for you.
Yes, I did.
That spoiler was that. I'm just kidding. We're not going to spoil.
Well, I'll tell.
So, I want to talk to you, Larry, about what is your policy on spoilers?
So, my policy on spoilers. Online discussion, obviously. If you're that person that, like, in vocal conversation just spouts out spoilers with no consideration of the people around you, you just suck. That's my policy there. One time, a guy spoiled something for you, and you dumped a whole cooler of ice water over his head.
Yes, I did.
And so people thought that was unreasonable. I thought that was on the nice end of the scale of things.
And to be fair, the guy that I did it to thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
It was a Game of Thrones spoiler, by the way. And it was before the episode aired. He was telling me what happened in the book that was going to happen in the episode. So there wasn't even an opportunity for me to see it because the episode hadn't aired.
Yeah. So with movie stuff, I feel like you have to tag everything with a spoiler alert until the movie's out on DVD for a couple weeks. That may seem ridiculous to some people I know, but there are people that can't afford to go out to the movies, and just when something is sort of newish, I just think that common courtesy is put spoiler alert. It's not that hard. Lead your tweet thread, lead your Facebook post with spoiler alert for Infinity War, not with can't believe this happened in Infinity War. Infinity War is not the last word. You lead with what you're about to talk about. And then within that thread and the comments on it, you talk about whatever you want. You talk freely. But warn some people, because when I'm on Twitter, I'm reading all the tweets. That's what I'm going to do. So that's kind of, I guess that's sort of my thing there. And with TV shows, I feel like you give it a week. Because if someone's actually actively watching the show, that's more than enough time to be up to date on it.
What about a video game?
I've never actually thought about it.
You don't play a ton of story-driven video games to begin with, but I've been like having to tread carefully around social media while playing through God of War because I don't want anything spoiled. Well, I'll give
my gut reaction, like my knee-jerk reaction, is like a month.
Yeah.
That seems reasonable to me.
Yeah, that's kind of where I stand too. So, all right, when it comes to a movie and TV are the same for me. It's like give it a week, and so I differentiate with you on that. Like I think, okay, it's cool if you can't afford to go to the movies and you're waiting for it to come out on DVD, but at that point you just need to recognize that like the world doesn't revolve around you. Okay. I do think it is considerate to say spoiler alert to something before you're gonna completely spoil it, but I also don't think you can get upset with somebody if they spoil it if it's been out for a week.
Okay. For me, it was like day 2. So
yeah. No. No, I completely agree. So yeah, get maybe a couple weeks for theaters. Cause I mean, it is a little bit of a task to try to get there, but if it's something you're that interested in, that it's really going to upset you that much to have it spoiled, you're going to find a way to go see it in the first couple weeks. When it comes to a game, I lean heavily on that, like that month thing, give it a month before you spoil it. But even then you should still lead with, hey, we're going to spoil God of War and then, and then go. And that goes for the podcast or whatever. Now, what do you consider to be a spoiler? I think
I was actually going to touch on this.
This has been an interesting thing. So, I'm a part of a million different Facebook groups for video game stuff, just because if I write articles, I like to share my articles and stuff like that. I was on the Kind of Funny group, and somebody just posted the review score for Infinity War from IGN, and they gave it like a 9. Spoiler alert, they gave it a 9.
It's a 9? I can't watch it now.
No joke. Somebody freaked out over the fact that they posted a spoiler. Because they're like, I want to go in blind. I don't want to know if it's good or if it's bad. It's like, at a point, you got to take some personal responsibility within yourself and say, I'm just going to log off social media.
Yeah, I was going to bring this up. I didn't know you were going to ask this. But yeah, I think an issue in our current culture is like we act like learning anything about a story is a spoiler. Like all the spoiler alert stuff I said only applies to major things like character death. Sudden unforeseen character relationship happens, like something like that. Like a review score, no. Something that happened in the trailer, no. Sorry, if you were trying to go in clean slate, and I've done that before. I went into one of the Star Wars movies clean slate. I can't remember which one. Like I knew I wanted to see it. At that point, it is on you to avoid.
Exactly,
and you're going to have to not look at things.
Yeah. You have to realize you're that sensitive to it and realize that the internet is a dangerous place. And I think you can have a reasonable expectation that if a character dies or something, you know what else I consider a spoiler that, and maybe this is me being sensitive, but when somebody's like that twist at the end, man.
Yeah.
Even if they don't give away what the twist is, because then you're just looking for it. I do consider that a spoiler. Like if somebody was like, man, that twist at the end of Infinity War is just blew my mind. It's like, I don't want to know there's a twist because the whole point of a twist is I'm being led astray for an hour and a half. And then in the last 30 minutes, something crazy happens.
Yeah. We need to talk about this when the podcast is over.
Oh, okay.
We'll come back to this.
Okay.
I could actually spoil something for somebody.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, but yeah, I think, that makes sense to me. And in a way, like how much outcry was happening with Star Wars The Force Awakens over the fact that there was something to spoil. Like once that scene occurred, like you knew how it was going to end because, obviously this is the thing that's been getting spoiled for people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you. Letting people know there's a twist, something like that. That's definitely spoiler territory. But all in all, I think there are a few things going on there when people are getting upset about every little thing. One is we just like to be angry about things as a culture.
Yes.
And I like the dude who's upset over the review score. That's a person who's just looking to be upset.
Yeah, exactly.
But then also, we've reduced stories to their value being tied to unforeseen twists. And I don't know that that's good. Like, I'm having trouble articulating what I'm saying here.
No, I get what you're saying. Like, I think we think of stories in two lanes. It's either this is just the cliche arc of, conflict resolution, that sort of stuff, or it's got to have some major twist in order for it to be a compelling story. When in reality, you can tell a story that follows that traditional arc and it still be engaging because the characters are interesting, the dialogue is interesting.
Yeah, knowing what's going to happen shouldn't ruin the story for you. If it does, it's not a great story.
Exactly.
Like I now know what's coming in Infinity War, but I still want to watch it because I have faith that Marvel has put together a movie worth watching.
Yes. If a movie is boiled down only to its bullet points and that's all you need to get from the movie, it's not a good movie to watch.
Yeah. I think, actually, as an example of this, I think M. Night Shyamalan's career has been unfairly plagued by this. He's had movies that have big twists in them, and there's kind of this thing of, I'm going to go watch the M. Night Shyamalan movie, and if it doesn't have a good twist, it's a bad movie. The Happening. Have you ever seen The Happening?
No. Is that the one where they're like laying in front of lawnmowers?
Yeah.
Okay, I know the twist though.
So, well, it's not even a twist. Like, they tell you in the first 5 minutes, like, the plants are revolting and killing people, basically.
Oh, okay.
Like, it's not a movie that relies on a twist, but for some, like, and granted, I think the concept's a little weird and it wasn't my favorite M. Night movie, but I think it was unfair of people to act like, it was just a dumb twist. Because, no, there wasn't a twist.
Yeah.
This is the story.
Right.
So I think a lot of movies and stuff are unfairly plagued by, if it doesn't have a good twist, it's not a good movie.
Yeah.
And if you ruin the twist, it's ruined for me.
Well, and we, you're still in ministry. I spent years in ministry, and like a lot of the problem with a lot of preaching and stuff like that is people want to figure out something completely new that nobody's ever said before about whatever they're preaching about. And it's like, every now and again, you just need to be reminded of what you know. Like, that's what makes fairy tales so awesome is like, look, it's okay to have a good guy, bad guy story and the good guy succeeds. And it's plenty good to have a good guy, bad guy story where the good guy doesn't succeed either, because that's life. Like, and art imitates life. And sometimes life does work out in this mundane, humdrum ABC way. And it's okay to tell stories like that.
Yeah.
So I completely agree. All right, Larry, let's get out of here. I know you're starving. Who are you?
I've been starving all day. That is who I am now. This is who I am now.
Well, who are you?
My name is Larry. You can find me on Twitter at Lair Hunts Zombies, LARHUNTS Zombies.
And I'm Luke Croft. You can find me on Twitter at TK from Antioch. We're the Player 3 Podcast, over here every Monday at 5 o'clock on twitch.tv/Player3 Podcast, and then out to you on iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, youtube.com/Player 3 Podcast on Tuesdays. Look for us, follow us, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. Until next week, we love you. We are the Player 3 Podcast. Player 3 Podcast. P3P.